come at this with I come at this with a Enneagram background and also an interest in ancient wisdom, in particular, the ancient wisdom of Egypt. So what I was able to share with Ingrid was insights into the wisdom of ancient Egypt and the way that the temples are really universities. They're universities in stone. So giving just a few prompts to Ingrid, it was really interesting how her background in her religious studies, she was able to bring a huge amount of insight into other contexts around what the Egyptians were telling us. So we're really coming at this with looking at how the ancient wisdom, the wisdom of Egypt, can help us understand the Enneagram more, and how can the Enneagram help us understand Egypt more. And it's all based around this really important concept of true of voice, Kheru in ancient Egyptian. If you spoke with the true voice, it was the ultimate accolade to give to somebody. It was a sign that you'd been living your life to your own truth, but also more importantly to the truth of the universe, of nature. So that we're aiming for when we speak with a true voice. It comes from the heart. So it's linked to this Egyptian concept of the intelligence of the heart, which is really what the Enneagram is speaking to as well. So Ingrid, what have you got to add to that?
I think if you go on to the next slide there, Rob, about how our work is complementary, I think that's quite helpful. So on slide 2, okay, there we go, I'm seeing it. So my background, as Rob said, in religion studies. I'm currently trying to finish a PhD this year on the Enneagram and the cultivation of the inner observer, and looking at the things that link all of these traditions together, of how do we truly grow and change, and what does that really mean? And in my training with the NAM, which is the neuroaffective relational model, I really discovered how our healing and growth and change is totally embodied. It's about three-centered intelligence in the body, and about discovering ways to be in the now, in the moment, fully inhabiting ourselves, fully awake in our three centers, with our instinctual health restored, and with the restoration of our innate capacities for human connection, for belonging, with our, I want to call it almost a kind of right to our connection to our own life force and to our own agency and to our own inner knowing. And these are the things that get distorted. So all of these things just came together around what it means to grow and change. And then in encountering Rob's work around who are we really and how do we connect with that, there were just some incredible connection points. And when we were together in Egypt, it actually makes me want to cry, because there were moments in those temples in which I was absolutely overcome with the beauty of the teachings and with the alignment, the perfection with which these teachings integrate around what are we? What are we really, really? And these deepest perennial truths. And I discovered that all the teachings that I loved so much, Kabbalah, Sufism, mystical Christianity, Buddhism, the kind of bedrock of these teachings is articulated in a living way in these temples. And I was expecting to see histories of, like, you know, this king fought this battle, and it was not that at all. Every pillar, with Rob illuminating it for me and giving me keys, was like reading a sacred text. And And this is how this work is coming together. It's the deepest spirituality, it's living wisdom, it's alive and it's relevant. So that's where I'm coming from now, is a deep integration, a deep spiritual integration in a fully embodied way in the three centers. So Rob, sorry, I got totally carried away, but I'm handing
I
over.
just love it. No, I love it. And what is just incredible being in those spaces is that they're designed as vehicles for learning. And you can be in that space and they're still working, they're still operating in the way that they were designed to operate 3,000+ years ago. And the Enneagram, you know, in my view and my research into the origins of the Enneagram's origins are in Egypt, and I think there's so much alignment between what the Enneagram has to teach us and the origins of the teachings there in Egypt. So we're really interested in kind of moving beyond typology as well. The Enneagram of personality is amazing. It's accurate, and I'm sure hopefully most people on this call know and love the Enneagram of personality. We're also looking at what's beyond the Enneagram of personality, so into the Enneagram of process. And again, that's what we were learning in the universities in Egypt, the universities that are still operating as in Egypt. We were at the Temple of Karnak. That is the temple of creation. You get a sense of the universal scale of creation there. And then you move to the Temple of Man, the Temple of Human Being at the Temple of Luxor, which is a very, very different experience, different energies, and really getting a sense of embodiment of the head, the heart, and the body. It's built into the Egyptian teachings. And the transition between the creation of the universe, the creation of humankind, and the existence and operation of humankind. And that's what we'll be looking at today, and we'll be looking at in more detail on our retreat in London and in Turin in September.
Beautiful. One thing I wanted to mention there that was so incredible was about the Egyptian understanding of how the light of awareness, the gift of consciousness, enters human form. And what does that mean? And I think that's really one of the central things about this teaching for me is, as a head type, I guess, what do I do with the gift of my awareness? And how do I turn it towards knowing myself in my heart? To the point where at some point in my life, I'm going to truly, hopefully be able to say, I know myself in my heart. And experiencing the clarity of that true awareness, where our mind isn't captured by the fixations of the mental center that are characteristic of our ego, that our mind isn't busy with the things of our fixation, but is actually doing its proper job, which is being the light of awareness and that clarity and that inner knowing, with the ability to use those rays. Some of the Sufi teachers talk about rays of awareness, and there are millions of them in the Sufi teachings. But what do we do with them to the extent that we're able to turn our awareness? And Marion Gilbert said one thing at the conference that I really loved. She said, inner peace is just a shift of attention away. So part of this work is really using our awareness in a way that isn't about filling our heads with Enneagram content, as you'll see. And then what does it mean in an embodied sense in our human experience? So trauma-informed understanding goes beyond a kind of Western white middle-class privileged self-actualization project. It's about us being social beings embedded in a particular socio-historical context, in conditions of injustice, inequality, and suffering, And what does it mean for us to work with the system in a socially embedded way, recognizing our interconnectedness to everything, to each other, to the planet, and what does right action really mean? It doesn't mean just the choice I make about how I speak to somebody at work as a leader. It means, how am I in this world in a broader sense? So I just wanted to add that bit in, Rob.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump forward to this slide,
Let's give them a little glimpse of slide 3, just to let the left brain relax a little bit.
So do you want to talk through this one then?
So what I put in here is not to go into this content, but people enjoy my one-page summaries of the entire Enneagram as reference sheets. And I seem to just spend my life making PowerPoint slides about the Enneagram. But one of the things that I like to do is make the head center happy that it's got something to think about, something to master, some actual content, even though it's not the focus of the teaching. But in our work, also providing helpful, solid, well-researched materials that people can use as easy reference for their work with the Enneagram, and trying to condense it to something that articulates the inner logic of a type, so that it's easy to navigate one's way around. So just, I suppose, saying in our work, even though it's experiential and embodied, that there's high quality content as part of our learning design. So Rob, let's go on now. I won't start with this.
Yeah, and then this was picking up with the temples that we were at. The temple on the left is the temple of Senuseret. This is a very ancient temple, dating back to the early kingdoms, and it's divided in 3 sets of 3. So it embodies the 9 in its structure. It's incredibly elegant, and the 7 steps on either side, building up to this temple, and it was incredibly energetically powerful. And Ingrid and I, we were just guessing how long we'd spent in this tiny temple that's just off the side to the Temple of Karnan. We reckon we spent 45 minutes there at this temple, which is just taking in the energy of it. But again, so 3 by 3 relates to 9. It's got it's obviously the unity of the temple itself, and it's got the 7 steps on either side. So you know, elements that connect into Enneagram structure there from the earliest of Egyptian buildings. And then the picture on the right, we ended up with sore necks from looking up so much at the incredible designs around these temples, because they're huge. You know, if you go to Rome or Greece, you kind of see foundations, you might see the odd pillar. You go to Egypt and this whole temple's completely intact. It's quite phenomenal when you see it. So this is the Temple of Hathor. We'll be talking a bit more about Hathor in when we talk about the heart section. But yeah, there we are, getting a sore neck once again on the right. So let's move on to talk about, let's dive in with the center. So we're both Ingrid and I in our teachings, very much center focused, and that reflects Gurdjieff's teachings. So yeah, body center. Well, I'm dominant in type 9, so I'm dominant in the body center. And the body center is very much our physicality. It's our physical reality. Firstly, it's our physical orientation in the reality that's around us, and it relates to our presence, and that's what the body center is all about. It's the intelligence of the senses. It's the intelligence of the nervous system, and it's who we are and where we are in the space around us. And we were talking about this idea of geosentience in terms of moving on about the body center, which is something that we've really lost. You get a real sense of it in Egypt, how plugged into the environment and nature they were back then. As a person who has strong geosentience, in my case, you know, I feel very plugged into the planet, to the breathing rhythm of the planet, to the heartbeat of the planet, to the security, the safety of the planet, and also to the pain of the planet, the pain the planet's going through right now. Part of my presentation at the Kheru conference was about nature and the climate emergency that we're currently facing. So the Egyptian philosophy is very much a naturalistic, organistic culture. They spent a lot of time watching nature. They spent a lot of time engaging with nature and living in harmony with the natural world. Ma'at is one of the goddesses or the principles of ancient Egypt, and it's the principle of balance. It's the principle of equanimity and equilibrium. The Egyptians knew that it was important to live in a world that was stable. It seems really obvious to say something like that, but it's a lesson, it's a perspective that we're not taking on board. So Ma'at was the guiding principle of ancient Egypt, and it's the guiding principle of the body center. The body center works to create homeostasis. When the body comes out of equilibrium, when the body comes out of homeostasis, we move into dis-ease. And the more we move into dis-ease, the more we're into physical problems and the more we experience mental problems. So the body center, the whole purpose of the body center is to create stability and balance. And it's the purpose of the body center in the Enneagram as well. The apex of the triangle is very much the point, the balance point of the Enneagram. So the body center in our own bodies and the body center symbolically in the Enneagram is inviting us into creating balance, creating sustainability, and creating stability in ourselves and the world around us. What do you have to add to that, Ingrid?
I was just listening to your language around balance and stability. And at the bottom of the slide there, I put something in there about 4E cognitive science, which is one of the things that informs my way of thinking about the Enneagram and specifically the work of John Vervaeke. I know Khaled is a big Vervaeke fan. I don't know if any of you have been following him. He's really brilliant, and he's got a whole series on YouTube called Awakening from the Meaning Crisis. And it's a very helpful frame for understanding the Enneagram as a system that gives us what he calls an optimal grip on our lives and on reality, including our spiritual life. And that word at the end of the third bullet point, exaptation. The word balance that we use for psychological balance, inner balance, a balanced mind. The process of exaptation is where we take physical concepts derived from our embodied experience and they get exapted into other ideas that we use psychologically. For example, if I say, I'm really grappling with this problem, where did we get that metaphor of grappling? From actually wrestling and grappling. So when we talk about balance, it actually comes from us knowing what it feels like to be balanced, as opposed to feeling dizzy or unbalanced or weak. So all of these things translate from the body into things that we can use. So we can use our body to find out more about what does it mean to feel balanced and stable. So we create resource states in the body that we can then use and transplant and transfer and carry over into other contexts. And this is something that I use a lot in my coaching, is if we're standing in the coaching session and we get into a state of balance and ease, then what if you take that experience into your meeting on Tuesday? And people are able to anchor into that experience. Anyone who's done NLP or hypnosis will know about anchoring. So we create states in the body that we can then transfer and use and have as resources, because then we remember them kinesthetically. It's not an idea about sobriety or my line to whatever. It's like, okay, I know what it feels like. So this is what Rob and our work is a lot about this. We've learned a lot about this from Egypt. It just teaches you being there, and we're bringing those teachings. So I've got a practice that I want to do with us now, which I learned after our trip, and Rob joined the dots. But what I invite you to do is to take off your shoes and stand up. It's a short practice that allows you to establish a new relationship to any issue that you're currently grappling with, or that is overwhelming you. These are all physical metaphors. You're welcome to switch off your camera if you want to, or to leave it on. It's completely up to you. And don't feel pressurized to do the exercise. If you don't want to, you're perfectly welcome to sit it out and observe. But I'm sure you'll get the benefit. It is a trauma-informed exercise based on somatic coaching. So what we're going to do is, standing in our place, just bring to mind an issue that you're currently grappling with. Not something huge, just something manageable for the purposes of the exercise. So just something that's causing you some trigger at the moment. Definitely something small enough that it's not overwhelming. And just experience your relationship to that issue right now. What mental images come to mind? What is your posture? How do you breathe when this issue feels right here? What kinds of thoughts are you having? What's your posture? Just scan through your body. What is your experience of bringing this issue into the here and now? And just notice your state. For the head types, it's particularly helpful to look at the mental imagery. For example, 6s often create a big projection on a big screen of something very vivid in their mind's eye that really is quite overwhelming. And in that state, we might be quite dissociated from the here and now. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to change our relationship to that issue using our body. So what I invite you to do, just get your feet closest together if they weren't before. And I invite you now to take quite a decent sized step back with your right foot back. And then to transfer quite a bit of weight to your back leg. So maybe 70% on your back leg, which is the right leg. And then also to now push that issue away. Not far away, just to the kind of horizon of your awareness. But the purpose is to create a bit of space between you and this issue. You can just push it away a bit, create a bit of space around you. And you can keep your arms there at a comfortable distance. So your weight is back. The issue is further away. And now what I invite you to do is to find your stability in this stance, a comfortable, stable and balanced stance. So if your feet are the comfortable distance apart, you might feel more balanced. And if your back knee is unlocked, you might feel more stable. And invite you in this stance to now connect with the soles of your feet. Become aware of the strength in your lower body. power of your legs, your hips, your spine. And you can elongate your spine slightly and tuck in your chin into a sense of a noble posture. In your Wendy Palmer's work, there's a golden thread attaching on the top of our head to the sky. We hook our head to the top of our head to the sky. We elongate upwards and stand in stable balance, our weight slightly back. Just remind yourself of the space that you have between yourself and the issue. And let the visual imagery, if there is any, of that issue beyond your hands shrink down to a manageable size. If there were any big villains, shrink them down. If the colors were very bright, soften them or even fade them out to grey. If there were loud noises, quieten them down. So using the power of your awareness and the power of your imagination to change that whole situation before you. And at the same time as you've done that, just feeling your capacity, your power, your vitality has already grown. Notice your breathing. Don't try and change it, but just notice whether or not it has changed already. Might be a bit deeper into the abdomen. Might be a bit more steady. Might be slower. And here, if you'd like to, you can lengthen the out breath slightly. And notice the nervous system change that happens when one does them. It's a very natural key to relax. And now standing here, you can take one of your hands and put it somewhere on your body where you feel it's needed, or you can just put it somewhere to remind yourself that you are here, that you're real. Sometimes reassuring to quite firmly squeeze our shoulders or the back of our neck. What we're doing is reassuring ourselves that we are here. And not only that, maybe you put your hand on your heart and notice, I'm here. And my feelings matter. And I'm real. I'm here. And I matter in this situation. So just using that hand to affirm your presence, your realness, your existence, the fact that you feel that you're alive. And now breathing again. Noticing the inner stability, the balance, and the power, the strength. And from this place, we can tap into a deeper place within ourselves, to our true values, our inner knowing, our inner alignment, our clarity. And from this place, we can choose how we want to respond to that situation over there. Having a more objective relationship with it, and having a much bigger sense of our own freedom in relation to that issue. So just feeling that weight on the back leg and maybe unlocking the knee again, so that you can feel the possibility of dynamic movement. You can feel the possibility of now. When you're ready, stepping forward, you can still hold the issue at bay, but stepping forward so that your feet are together again. And you're standing in the centered, balanced state of alignment. And knowing that you have the power and the agency and the freedom and the presence within yourself to engage with whatever this issue is, whatever the situation is, from this place. And maybe you want to condense your intention into a single word. For me, my word is kindness. I choose kindness. And maybe if your screen is on mute and it's a comfortable place for you, you can say your word of your intention, if you have one. I'd love to spend more time and let you journal and debrief, and that would be something that would be, for me, a very natural next step, is to tap into what happened. How did that feel for you? To give us time to share amongst ourselves what happens when our state changes. What happens when we exact physical balance and stability into psychological balance and stability. So just taking a moment to appreciate what you just gave yourself in your body and from your body and from your inner resources that are always available to you. So Rob, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so thanks, Ingrid, for leading that beautiful practice. So here we can see Ramses and this idea of striding, this idea of creating balance in the body. It's ubiquitous among a lot of Egyptian, obviously, statues, and very much in the psychology and the philosophy that the Egyptians bring forward. I don't know if you look at that leg, or if you look at that statue on the right there, notice how sturdy those legs are. They're actually not anatomically correct, given the rest of his body. If you look at the legs, it's very common in Egyptian to see these extra thick legs, and nothing in Egyptian is accidental. Everything is symbolic. So we get these striding statues with ultra thick legs, and it's really an invitation into to being grounded. This sense of being connected to the earth and this sense of moving forward. And we often see it's the left leg forward. The left side of the body, of course, connects to the right side of the brain, the right hemisphere. That's the brain that looks at the complete picture. The left brain takes things out and analyzes. It's the right brain that sees the whole image. So also the left eye sees the whole picture. So our eyes are doing different things as we look forward into the world around us. So we've got this idea of power, agency, action, moving forward, leading with the left foot, the whole right brain. So that's a bit about the body center. We're going to move forward. We're going to talk about the recovery of the life force with the Ankh as well. The Ankh, a very important symbol in Egypt, which is this idea of life. The Ankh is the symbol of life, but it's particularly connected with breath and spirit. Spirit in many languages, the same word as breath. Respire is to breathe, and you can see at the bottom left there, there's Horus, Kheru in Egyptian. Horus is the Greek word. giving the gift of life. And the ankh is often pointed towards a person's nose and mouth. So it's this invitation to breath. So breath and breathing very much incorporated in the Egyptian philosophies. Obviously in the meditative practices, we're involved with the breath, the in-breath, the out-breath, the rhythm of life, very much part of Egyptian culture. And the statue would have been holding an ankh as well. It's the love of life. Very much you see ankh with the symbol for giving as well. So we get this giving life. We saw it all over the temple of Karnak, the temple of the creation of the universe, giving life everywhere. The ankh. Giving life everywhere. We saw these symbols. So this is the symbol of life, very much connected with the body center and with breathing. So
Rob,
let's move.
I want to add something there, if you don't mind, around, in our leadership models, in the Enneagram, it's head, heart, and body, head, heart, gut, head, heart, action. But in so many of the leadership models that we work with, it's head, heart, hands. And I think this is a nice thing to remember as well, is that the hands are about agency. The hands are about optimal grip. The hands are about making things happen. I worked with a client the other day who kept on having dreams about his hands being stuck and not being able to use them. His hands stuck in his belt, his hands stuck behind his back. I'm not going to let you guess what type he is, don't. But having a real struggle connecting with his own power, agency, and vitality in the world, to step into his dream, to do the things that he knows are his calling in the world. So how do we connect with that life force? And just, Rob, what you were saying about give life, the ubiquity of that message on these sacred texts on the walls about a kind of process theology about God is ever emergent. I know Rob prefers other words, but I just use God as a shorthand. It's just simpler. Beloved God gives life. And this absolute devotional attitude in these temples reminds us of the incredible sacredness and beauty of our consciousness, of our heart minds, of our existence, of the gift of this moment of life that we have. So it's very moving, and we could do the rest of the day just about the ankh and the ankh symbols and all of that stuff. Renata's laughing because she can see I want to just cry the whole time. It's just too beautiful. I cannot tell you. So Rob, thank you for that, and you better move on before I...
Yeah, we're a little bit behind time, but yeah, would you like to talk about the heart center a bit? Would you want to start on the heart center, Ingrid?
The heart center. No, I'd love you to do that, Rob, because you come from a background of physics and music, and Renata, in your teachings, you speak about this as well. It stood out for me in one of your teachings around how we say, no, that person's not on my wavelength. It's about frequency. The heart is a thing of frequency. It sends out energy. It's almost as if the sacred geometry represents the harmony and intelligence that can come from the heart. And Rob, you talk about that because you just know a lot more about that than I do.
Okay, so I'll talk about it from picking up on what you're saying, from the perspective of music. And we talk about the perennial wisdom. Gurdjieff talks about the universal language as well. And that's part of what we get to with the heart center, and it's part of what we get to with this teaching, is all of this language around how we connect. The heart center is the connection center, obviously. It's the part that connects, and it's the relational center, how we relate from ourselves to others. It's the center of interconnection. We have all of this language, attunement, harmony, resonance, around the heart center. The heart center is also the place of passion. It's the place of our energy and from a meaningful center. So that's what comes through the heart center. And we spent a lot of time in Egypt talking about connection and disconnection. We were this idea of us being independent beings, that it's quite a lonely message that we get from Western society. You're on your own. You've got to make it on your own. You've got to make your own money. You've got to make your own way in life. The Egyptians had the exact opposite worldview, and that's what we bring in through this teaching as well. Is explaining, or not explaining, but talking about this completely different worldview that underpinned Egyptian society. We've already talked about the principle of balance, harmony as a guiding principle, and then we come into the heart center. There's this interconnectedness, how you're connected, how you rely on each other, how you rely on spirit, how you rely on the earth and nature around you. We've lost this sense of connection, and that's something that we talk about in the Enneagram of true voice. When you speak from a true voice, you have to speak from a place of connection, inner connection first. I'm connected to my heart. Ingrid mentioned this phrase, I know myself in my heart. I talked about this in Kheru. The Greek version is know yourself. It's a command. It's in the second person singular. The Egyptians talk about I know myself in my heart. And the intelligence of the heart was so important to Egyptians. And we can get confused about even this, because we're thinking about the heart center from our perspective. The intelligence of the heart isn't just about the heart. It's about being embodied in the moment, and it's embodied thinking, and it's embodied feeling. So it's when the three centers come into alignment, and then we're open to spirit or God or whatever word you want to use, the greater universe. This is what the Egyptians are talking about, the intelligence of the heart. It's an integrated, embodied intelligence that is open and receptive. It's grounded. It's generous. It's altruistic. It's part of the greater being of the universe, of humanity, of planet Earth and nature. And that's the heart center. That's when the heart center is in alignment. And that's what we talk about when we mention the intelligence of the heart in ancient Egypt. Ingrid, do you want to pick up on anything there?
Yeah, I just want to invite you to look at the chat, because look at that. When we connect with ourselves and our presence, look at the things that we're able to bring. And it's very natural that when we reconnect with ourselves in our embodied intelligence, we experience the virtue and we want to act that way. And look at all the hearts that are there. It's so natural for us to realize that our tenderness and our responsivity towards life from a loving place is here. And when we experience ourselves in self-reconnection, we experience it in the heart. So yeah, can't say enough about the heart, but maybe we can do a bit of an experiential moment about the heart center and how much music, the role of music in our work and in our teaching. Both of us already used music, but we're gonna, increasingly use it in new ways. Movement, music, and awakening our sentiences, all of these different sentiences that we naturally have. And music has a universal language. So Rob, I don't know if you want to take us into that experience.
Yeah. So music is a direct experience, and it's as much it's the notes that flow through interconnectedly. One note on its own doesn't create music. It's the flow of notes, it's the flow of harmony, and it's the flow of rhythm that creates music. So we'd like to give you an experience in the heart center, invite you into the heart center. Here's a piece of music we're going to play from Tom Kenyon, who's an incredible musician who's inspired by the Hathors. We went to the Temple of Hathor in Egypt. The Hathors are the goddess Hathor is the embodiment of the female generative principle. She is a goddess of music. Interestingly, she's also a goddess of astronomy. So here we, straight away there's something that we would normally associate with the masculine energy. It's associated here with Hathor. So what I'd like to invite you to do with your cameras on or off, whatever you feel comfortable, is really to allow this music to land in your hearts and notice what happens in your heart space as we play this piece, Restoration by Tom Kenyon. Allowing your attention to return, and perhaps noticing what you're experiencing right now. Where's your attention? What's the quality of the energy in your body? And perhaps pay particular attention to what's happening around the chest, the heart area as well. And feel free to share anything that you want to share around your experience in the chat. It'd be great to hear what experiences you're experiencing. So, oh, that was lovely. We could stay there forever, couldn't we? We have to move forward with just something about the heart, a bit more about the intelligence of the heart, which is this image of, it's often presented like a container. And when the Egyptians talk about the intelligence of the heart, it's conceptual as well. So it's important to note that, you know, if we hear silly stories like the Egyptians thought that the heart was the brain or something. It's no, they fully understood how the human body works. So they're talking about conceptually the heart as the seat of the self, the seat of intelligence. And it's this deep, wise, embodied intelligence that was embedded in the way that they saw the world and the way that they organized their society. And again, it's something that's really missing. And I think where Ingrid and I are also both very passionate about bringing wisdom forward from the past into the present. You know, there's no ancient Egypt, unfortunately, is gone. We're not going to recreate it. We wouldn't want to create it. But we're at an inflection point. We're at a shock point at the moment in humanity. We're going to need to pull on all wisdom and all knowledge that we can to get through the next few years. So we're looking at, in particular, the wisdom of ancient Egypt, but what can we bring forward from then to now to inform us better how to live as human beings now, how to organize our lives and organize our societies and our structure as well. Is there anything to add there, Ingrid?
Oh, I'd love to spend so much time on this.
We could spend.
There are people in this room, oh my Lord, Deborah, the Ken Wilber stuff on the post-trans fallacy, if I'm using the correct word, about how we can't go backwards into a pre-industrial age, but what wisdom and intelligence and knowledge about things that we know now to be scientifically true, about the absolute interconnectedness of everything and what that means at the most fundamental level. This is stuff that Indigenous societies have known forever. So how do we live according to things that are absolutely incontrovertibly true, and use this wisdom as keys to unlocking the full reality of what that means? And the Enneagram's about objective knowledge. It's not about woo-woo excarnating into some imaginary plane, contrary to what an SX7 would love to do. It's about being here with life and appreciating more and more deeply, what does that mean in this moment? And the heart knows this stuff. So that's all I wanted to add, Rob.
Right, thanks, Ingrid. Yeah, and just picking up on what you were saying, what would become possible if we use our incredibly clever technology that we have right now in service of stability and maintaining life on Earth, rather than this principle that we work towards at the moment of progress, a kind of undefined progress towards what? Towards living together, towards not getting sick, towards escaping planet Earth. It's never really explained what this progress is towards. what if we used our intelligence and our technology to promote life on Earth, to promote living a good life on Earth? And we have this image famously or well known in Egyptian mythology, is at the end of life is weighing the heart. The heart is there on the right, being weighed against the feather of Ma'at. So did I live a true life? Did I speak with a true voice? And is my heart true at the end of life? Weighed against Ma'at, balance, stability, and the 48 laws of Ma'at, which we will go into on the retreat. Did I live according to the laws of the universe? And we can see all the feathers of Ma'at there, so loads of them around. So again, back to this theme, this guiding principle of balance and equanimity. And this is a quote that Ingrid uses in her training, and the heart knows the genuine. The heart knows the authentic. So this is from Howard Thurman. There is something within in every person that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine within oneself, and there is something in everybody that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in others. I think we know that sense, don't we? Have you got a sense of that? Looking for the genuine in yourself. In my coaching with clients, it's often what they're really looking for. And then as social beings, we're so well attuned to the genuine in others, the absence or the presence of the genuine in others, the authentic in others. And we're attracted to the genuine. We're attracted to the true voice. When we hear it, it's like a spark. It's like, oh, there it is. That person is true. That person is aligned. That person's in balance. That person's authentic. So we see it and we're attracted to it.
I want to say something there, Rob, and I just want to zoom back so people are aware of what we're doing here. Is we spoke about the life force, we spoke about our stance in the body, we spoke about the power of our body to teach us what stability and balance mean, what agency means, what it means to have life in our hands. And we moved on to the heart center. So we've gone from 9 to 3. What is the heart center all about? At the heart of the heart center is type 3. This is where we connect with the divine. Baranya made me very jealous of 3s. He once said, 3s have a very, very special relationship with God, the most special relationship of all the types. And I was like, damn, they do win after all. And but it's about the heart of the heart center and connecting there with the deepest truth within ourselves, with our true, the origin of our true voice, the uniqueness of our true identity. Voices are used for biometrics for a reason. The sound of who we are is utterly unique, and it can be off or it can be attuned. It can come from a certain place in ourselves. Our voice can be constricted, our voice can be hesitant, tentative, whatever it is. But what does it mean to get in touch with that truth, veracity, authenticity? It's there for all of us at the heart of the heart center. In some sense, with Rob and I working with the 3 primary types in the inner triangle, it's all about, we actually are all grappling with point 9, 3, and 6 dilemmas. We are all 9s, 3s, and 6s at some level. And the types around them are differentiations on the same struggle. They're different ways of trying to grapple with the same issues. How do I exercise agency in the gut center? Where's my power? What's my existence? What's my right action? In the heart center, it's about this for all of us. It's a deep longing for veracity and genuineness, and to connect authentically from that place of genuine to genuine. There's this beautiful quote in the Bible about deep calleth unto deep. I like the King James Version. I just love that idea of my deep calls to your deep. I find it so beautiful. And yeah, so just wanted to add that the authentic and the genuine as the whole theme of the heart center. And because we work with the tri-type, we work with that. What's our particular struggle with authenticity? What's our heart center tri-type element that gives us a unique flavor of how does our reality strategy hamper our authenticity? Just want to add that, Rob.
Yeah, and the heart is obviously the most intimate center. It takes time, it takes safety to open, to allow the heart center to even start to open. So giving ourselves an experience of what that feels like. It's always a slow entry into the heart center, isn't it? And then when the heart center is open, when it's connected, there's a certain respectfulness, isn't there, that has to be around that energy, if you like, that quality of the heart, that quality of being real and genuine. And it so easily snaps closed. It's the first center to snap closed, to be protective. And it's the center that needs the embodiment of the heart center, and it needs the clear, open mind to be able to start to slowly allow itself to be seen. So yeah, that's the genuine, the authentic, the heart center.
And I love that emphasis on there's a sequence to it. No, I've got a different sense to Rob about this, but they both work as, you know, the other centers need to be healthy enough to create the safety and stability for the heart to open. The heart won't open if the other centers are hijacked by various things. And within the heart center itself, the heart, there's a long journey to the opening of the heart for 2s, 3s, and 4s as well, because the image center is about inauthenticity versus authenticity at its core. So let's move on, Rob.
Yeah, we could stay on this for a whole day as well, but
more. So yeah, the head center, I alluded to that at the beginning. And what is a healthy mental center? So obviously we've got these cognitive capacities of how do we solve problems, what tools do we have at our disposal from a thinking center perspective, our rationality, our ability to break things down, metacognition, our ability to think about our own thinking. So there are all these brilliant adaptations that are part of our brains. And having a brain is an absolute prerequisite to doing anything. You wouldn't be able to understand a word of what we were saying or interpret the Enneagram or learn it if you didn't have the head center functioning. But we're talking about something more, which is awareness. And that is the higher quality of the mental center that we're looking to access. And the question there, exercise, how much of the time is your awareness intentional? I think that's the key question here. I would definitely hand over the floor to Anna here about mind training in Buddhism. I'm sure there are a number of you that have done Buddhist practice and mind training and Hindu practice as well, very much an awareness about training our awareness. All spiritual practice involves it. But this question of where is my awareness most of the time? Is my mind busy worrying? Or is it here? So all mindfulness training is about this, about the correct use of the head center and being able to master the mind, to learn to train our mind so we can put it where we want. My mom's very anxious. And I say to her, Mom, you can choose to put your mind anywhere. You can put it in your worries about the future, or let it go there by itself, or you can put it on Alpha Centauri, or a beautiful sunflower, or on the most relaxed part of your body, or on a little baby donkey. I kind of take her mind and put it in nice places that help her relax. But we should be able to do that for ourselves. Where am I putting my awareness? And again, that quote, inner peace is a shift of awareness away. I say this as though I do this. I only do this for like 1.3 seconds every 2 weeks, but this is the goal. Rob, what do you want to say about the mental center?
So yeah, the intellect was very important in you know, all ancient wisdoms, and particularly Egypt, you know, and it's a subset of the intelligence of the heart. Reminder there that the intelligence of the heart means the whole integrated system. Part of that is the intelligence of the head, the intellect. So you know, you don't get to build a pyramid, you don't get to build these incredible temple spaces that we visited without an intellect, without a logical, rational explanation and understanding of how to build architecture, etc. You walk into some of these spaces and they're vast, they're huge. The Temple of Hathor is absolutely incredible. The size, the scale of it, the conception that went into imagining it before it was built. It was designed. These places some of them are slightly organic, but they're not entirely organic. And the Temple of Hathor is also, it's a great observatory. The Egyptians were monitoring the rise every hour, the rise of different stars throughout the day and throughout the night. So obviously throughout the night, you see the stars rising, but they were calculating star rises through the day as well. They monitored the sunrise and the sunset very carefully. They monitored the phases of the moon very carefully. So intellect was very built into the Egyptian way of life. So the head center, it's about information, it's about knowledge, it's about time, it's about space. It's about words and verbal language. And I think that's something that we, you know, we kind of overlook, that when we're speaking, you know, there are words on the screen now. I'm speaking words. This is all head center. If you're listening to my words or reading the words on the screen, that's going through the head center. By definition, words are associated with the head center. So yeah, we were in the presence in Egypt of a very highly advanced intellectual society that also have a very strong logic as per the origin of the cosmos, the origin of the universe, the origin of our whole solar system. It's all very logical and rational. There's a big difference, and we could spend a whole day on this, but I'll just quickly say there's a big difference between the Egyptians make one assumption, and that is that there's an unknowable God, an unknowable spirit. From there on, they have a very logical, rational sequence of events that comes through splitting into duality, splitting into polarity, into the law of three, which is obviously Gurdjieff talked about that, and then into space and volume. It's very, very logical and rational as to how the universe came about. In our Western view, we make a lot of assumptions that are never explained. Assumptions around zero, assumptions around infinity. For a couple of examples, those ideas don't exist in Egypt because they're theoretical, they're assumptions that don't make logical sense. So there's a lot of head center in the Egyptian philosophy, in the Egyptian sacred science. And you see it, you feel it when you're there in the temples. The hieroglyphs are a combination of writing. The system of writing we use is a code. It's a stream of code that refers to a sound, and then we have to translate that sound into a meaning. The alphabetical alphabet. Egyptians use the hieroglyphs use both left brain and right brain. They spell words out, but then there's also an image to confirm the word that's being spelt out. So when you're in those temples and looking at the hieroglyphs, you're activating right brain and left brain together. It's whole brain thinking. It's a very it's a much more advanced system of writing than ours, and it's to work with hieroglyphs. It's a real meditation to read hieroglyphs or to write in hieroglyphics. But it's such a beautiful language. It's a beautiful way of expressing the intelligence of the heart. So on the workshop, on the retreat, we'll be going into a bit more around hieroglyphs and the way that they're written and some of the messages that we get in hieroglyphs. But yeah, is there anything to add there for you, Ingrid?
You daren't open this conversation because
this is a big rabbit hole. We spent the whole time in Egypt avoiding rabbit holes, but some rabbit holes just grab you and then it's too late down the rabbit hole.
I said to him, why didn't you warn me? He said, I did warn you. I said, no, but you didn't wave 1,000 red flags like a communist parade, because when you go down this little path, it's something. So let's move on quick.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about this one, Ingrid?
No, I think you took to it, Rob, the integration and just recapping, I think, where we've been briefly, and then we can talk a bit more about the work and what's what. Oh, and also I want to mention Sam's contribution in it. So let's just do a wrap up here and then move on.
Yeah, okay. So we've kind of talked about the hemispheres of the brain. And this is the head center up at the top, obviously. You've got often on the uraeus, you've got the third eye very, very prominently featured on Egyptian statues. We've talked about the hands, the key of life in the hand, the action, the front leading foot of the left foot connecting to right brain, the stability that's built into these statues. And there's a lot of different postures in the Egyptian statues, which we can embody, we can use, and they still work. We were in the middle of these temples, there were tourists all around us, and Ingrid and I were trying out the different postures and this sort of posture, and all these tourists were looking at us as if we were crazy people copying the statues, but they didn't realize that they actually work, and they still work, these actions, these postures.
Yeah, sorry, Rob, I'm batting in.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just thinking Gurdjieff probably plagiarized the statues for his movements.
Yes, definitely some of those movements are
genuine effects. One of the ones that we were doing at the Temple of Luxor, which was so amazing, was to stand there. And this is the dua posture, and dua is the word in Islam for pray. You do this for a while and see what happens to you. The dua, acknowledging the light. And then you do this, the ka. And Robert could take us on a beautiful journey about the meaning of ka. Russ Hudson says it's one of the most mysterious hieroglyphs in ancient Egypt. But if you just notice the difference between doing that and doing that, what happens to your energy field? And in our work, what we're trying to do is develop our sentience to the shifts in our energy when we stand differently, when we move differently. So it's all part of it. And there's a biocentricity to this work that is really generative. So yeah, Rob, starting to close off a bit.
Yeah, so one of my other rabbit holes, one of my other passions, stroke obsession, stroke OCD, is finding Egyptian words in English. So Ingrid was talking about the dua there, which is the Egyptian word for worship. And we still use that word in English today when we say dua, adore. We're using that same word. It's an Egyptian word, adore. It still exists now. It was their word for worship, and it's developed into adore for us. So we won't go down the rabbit hole of Egyptian words of English, or else we really would be here all day. So bringing it together now, there's this theme of nature, this theme of where we are in our current moment in time as individuals and as humanity. So I'd like to share this poem. It's one of my favorite poems by Gary Lawless. When the animals come to us asking for our help, will we know what they're saying? And when the plants speak to us in their delicate, beautiful language, will we be able to answer them? And when the planet herself sings to us in our dreams, will we be able to wake ourselves and act? That really captures our intent with the Enneagram of True Voice. Makes me quite emotional to read that poem. It's so powerful. So Ingrid.
Yeah, staying on that poem, right? Because I think that poem says it all, you know, the integration. We don't need to do this slide if you go back to the previous one. Just talking about other elements of our work in terms of this kind of connectedness. One of the things that I like to build into my 5D coach training is a medicine walk. You walk in nature and receive wisdom from that walk of what comes to you. So integrating this shamanic experience, this wisdom, this emergence, the intelligence that's coming to us all the time that we've become disconnected from. And I call it the middle world. Is there's so much information that our type strategy and our ego disconnection and our resistance is filter out. And how do we connect with that? How do we connect with our intuition? And all of these are our birthright, really. And in this work, we also are going to have Sam there with us, and she's going to be doing a guest slot with us around her incredible work of soul collage. And I've been working with Sam for a while now. I'm finding it a very, very magical, healing, and very shamanic process of connecting with the sentience that is very different, very right hemisphere, very contextually embedded and sensitive and non-verbal. So we're going to be doing some deeply non-verbal processes around soul reconnection. Exquisite work. I can't stop about it. And Sam also does work for Take It to the Trees. So I'm hoping we're going to do some tree work when we're there. She also wrote a book about the different Enneagram types as trees. So Sam's work, very precious, and I'm excited to be able to have you with us in that space and doing something there with us, Sam. Yeah.
Thank you. I look forward to it very, very much.
Yeah, thank you. Our paths come together in such beautiful ways. So yeah, that's really what it's about. I don't know what else you want to add. Rob's self-praise dominant. I'm self-praise blind. So he remembers stuff like, you know, dates. And when he left a day early, I got lost and I didn't know how to catch the ferry. And I realized how much he'd been looking after all that stuff.
I didn't even think until I got the message like later. It's like, oh, of course, you wouldn't know all this stuff.
I was lost.
But yeah, I think what's coming up to me is you know, at this point is just how real this is in the moment now. And I've said before, you know, we're at an inflection point. We can feel it as individuals. There is something coming, and the Enneagram is inviting us as practitioners. It's inviting us as enthusiasts, you know, people who love the Enneagram. It's inviting us to be in a place where we can, I don't even know what the word is, but I facilitate is an awful corporate word, but where we can, as people, be embedded in our communities, in our work, to help create a more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible. There's a lot of pessimism around, and it's completely valid. But also there's a breaking open, a breaking apart, and it's going to need people that can navigate the intelligence of the heart. And I'm very passionately believe that the Enneagram is here for a reason. It came into the world about 100 years ago in its current form through Gurdjieff. The Enneagram of personality came along in the 60s, and I think Enneagram is evolving into next stage now, and that's very much what we're going to be exploring on the retreat, which is beyond the Enneagram of personality. What is the Enneagram telling us? What is it opening up for us? What can we learn from the Enneagram of process, the Enneagram of wisdom, the Enneagram of philosophy, the Enneagram of psychology at a kind of the highest level. So yeah, we talk a lot about Egypt, but it's not really about the past. It's about the present, and it's about the future. Where are we going as individuals and collectively with the Enneagram? And that's what we're going to be exploring in the retreat. So we're going to be 3 days in London, 5th to the 7th of April. And then in September, we're going to be in Turin, 4 days. And the extra day is because the largest collection of Egyptian items outside of Egypt is actually in Turin, strangely enough. They've got an amazing Egyptian museum there. So we'll have a day at the Egyptian Museum in Turin, as well as the 3 days of the retreat. So we'll be very much exploring what we have talked about in the session today. We're going to be looking at the Enneagram at its kind of macro level, the structure. Ingrid and I are very, very passionate about looking at the symbol of the Enneagram. What does the symbol mean? What does the symbol bring? Top level macro exploration of the symbol of the Enneagram. And we'll be exploring the centers, embodied experience of the centers. What is the correct use of the centers? How can we better have an experience, an embodied real experience of the centers? And what does it mean when we bring them together in alignment, doing what they're supposed to be doing? And then linking it obviously to the wider issues of the current situation that we're facing as individuals and collectively as human beings, and very much connected into the planet Earth and nature. Ingrid, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, just the importance of the symbol, and how when you've got a very powerful sacred symbol, it is a key and it teaches itself. And spending time on it, walking it, sitting on it. One time I went and sat on point 8. Spent about 20 minutes just sitting there and seeing, what are my pathways here? And if I'm going to 2, what points do I have to cross to get there? And oh, look at my neighbors. They're always here. There's the 7 and there's the 9. What does that mean? 9's always here. And so our work involves spending time on the symbol, learning from the symbol the same way as we can learn from these hieroglyphics. So really an appreciation of that. And there are symbolic keys that unlock the Enneagram. So it's a very beautiful thing without being all weird and complicated, and it's nothing fancy. It's really realizing that we can actually trust the symbol to contain a lot of what we need. So that's, I wanted to just amplify what you were saying about the magic of the symbol. And there's the Merkaba in the middle. We've got meditations around that. So there's a lot of beautiful practices that we've received in various ways and from various different sources and wisdom traditions. So yeah, I think that's lovely. A day at the Egyptian Museum after our September retreat with Rob as a guide. Oh my God. I would go just for that. Yeah. So yeah, and in there, I don't know if anybody wants to put some feedback in the chat about anything you're taking away. I'm quite happy to stay for a bit for Q&A, but I know I want to honor people's time and end here. Rob, are you able to stay for a little bit?
Yes, I'm staying. So yeah, just to say, if you want to come on one of the retreats, message myself or Ingrid, and we'll be really happy to provide you with more details. And we'd love to share this journey that we've been on with you. So yeah, I'm staying here for a while as well. So do stay on, and if you've got any questions, we'll be very happy to have a chat now.
Yeah, let's stay for about maybe 30 minutes if people want to chat and even share some of your experiences from the exercises. So I think I'll stop the recording so that we have, when we share it, there's confidentiality.